Hi there guys, I hope you're well. My name is Chris Smith. I'm an absolute beginner saxophone player, and what I mean by that is that I bought this 4 months ago and I've been learning to play it ever since. And today I wanted to share with you something that I've started doing with scales, and I hope it'll help you if you had similar struggles to me. So when I first started, my teacher and lots of people who I was speaking to said, oh, it's a really good idea, really important to learn your scales. So start off with the major scales. So they explained, and I discovered there are 12 major scales. So on the saxophone, the easiest one to start off with is C major. So I started off, learnt that one, sort of played 8 notes up, 8 notes down approximately. And that was the C major scale. And then I would move on to the next one. So the next one would be, I did a G major scale next. And what I was doing was basically, I then kind of, once I'd got another scale, so I could do G major and C major, I would then pick another one, so then I'd be practicing 3 scales every day, and then move on to the next one, and then I'd be practicing 4 scales every day. So obviously the amount of time I was spending practicing my scales was getting longer and longer. Now some of the scales, like the C major scale, as that got easier, I didn't feel like I needed to practice that as much. What I was doing was I would start off with a scale. If I couldn't play it at all, I would just kind of work out what the notes were and play it. I'd start off playing it at 60 beats per minute, and then 80, and then 100, and then 120. So if I could get up to 120, I felt like, yeah, I'd kind of pretty much got that worked out, and then I'd move on to another scale. But obviously, I just never got to the point where I was practicing all 12 scales because it was just taking up so much time. And then I started going to, or I enrolled to go to a jazz improvisation workshop. And the guy who was running it said, oh, a good thing for you to learn would be to learn a couple of pentatonic scales and some blues scales. So then, as well as practicing my major scales, I was then thinking, okay, I need to practice these pentatonic scales, practice these blues scales as well. And it was getting to the point where I just wasn't enjoying it anymore, which is unlike me. And I just wasn't having any time for my exercises that my teacher was setting me, practicing long tones and learning songs, which is why I was here in the first place. So what I did, and after looking at what a few other people had suggested, I changed the way that I was going to do it. So what I decided to do was to just pick each day, pick one scale that I'm going to work on. So for example, C, the key of C, the C major scale. And I've done a little chart, so I'll just kind of show you this very briefly, just to give you an idea of what this kind of looks like. Sorry. So I don't know if you can see that, but basically I've got one of those for each scale. And what there is on there is, this is what I'm going to practice in the day. So I've got in this case, what I'm going to show you in a moment is the D major scale. That's what I'm practicing today. So I do the D major scale, and I do it for the full range of the saxophone. So whereas before I was just doing it over kind of 8 notes, I'll now start as low as I can and go up as high as I can. What I then do is I then practice the relative minor scale for that. So for D major, the relative minor is B. Because they're related, they're actually exactly the same notes in the scale. You just start and end in a different place. What I then do is I practice the D major pentatonic and the B minor pentatonic. Again, it's the same notes, the notes that you've already been practicing, but you're learning those 2 pentatonic scales, which are really, really useful. And then after learning the B minor pentatonic, I then do the B blues scale, because that's really close. There's only one note, one extra note in the B blues scale from the B minor. And then finally, what I practice is the D major arpeggio. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different scales that I'm practicing. But what I found is, because they're so related and so many of the notes are the same, it's much easier to learn these scales like this than when I was constantly saying, right, I'm going to do D major, and then I was switching to B flat major, and then I was trying to do a C blues or whatever it was. I was kind of really struggling to do all of that. So I'm just going to go through all of that with you now. I'll kind of trim out some of the bits so that in this video, you don't have to watch the entire lot, but you can just obviously skip to the bits that you want to see, yeah, I'll see how it goes. So what I start off with is, this is the D major scale, and I'm going to start by playing it at 60 beats per minute. So I'm just going to set my metronome for that. Normally what I also do, and I will do that, is if I make a mistake, then I'll start again. That doesn't count as having gone through the scale. I want to play it all the way up, all the way down, back to the beginning again without any errors. So I'm going to start off with the D major scale at 60 beats per minute. So there we go. That was at 60 beats per minute. Normally I'd repeat that twice just to make sure that I'd kind of got it okay, but just for the purposes of this video, I'll skip the second time around. So then I just increase the metronome to 80 beats per minute. So that was 80 beats a minute. Then take it up to 100. And then lastly, I get it up to 120. So that was the D major scale. As I say, I would normally repeat each of those twice, but you get the gist of that. So the next one is the relative minor scale for that, is the B minor scale. And it's exactly the same order of notes, same notes in the same order. You just start at B instead of at D. So I'll drop my metronome down to 60 again, just to, as I'm kind of working this out, get it kind of trying to embed it in my mind, doing it more slowly. So the B minor, so that sounds kind of almost the same if you're thinking that's what it sounds the same, because it's the same notes but just in a slightly different order. So sorry, just when you're doing it slowly, it actually takes more breath, because obviously you're having to breathe out for a lot longer. So let me see if I can do that again. So this is at 80. So that's at 80 beats a minute. Get up to 100. Oops, started off at D, wasn't thinking there, right. B minor this is. 120. So that was the major scale, the D major, and its relative minor, the B minor scale. So what I then do is I start to move on to the pentatonic scale. So I start off with the major pentatonic scale for that, which is D major. So the notes for the D major pentatonic scale are D, E, F sharp, A and B. So again, I'll start those at 60 beats a minute. Get my metronome back down. Mistake there, sorry. So I'll try and do that now at 80. Sharp A. Do that to 100. Oh, made a mistake. And finally 120. Oh, that's a common mistake I found there. Right at the end there, you'll have heard that the last D, as I went into the octave key, was too high. It's an A. It's a problem I'm having with this. Well, I say with this saxophone, with my lips, with my mouth, my technique. I kind of haven't found a solution to it yet. I find if I kind of breathe more slowly, I get my kind of embouchure right and I get that D sorted. But at higher speed, I struggle with that. So, but anyway, that's not your problem. That's something I need to work on. So that was the D major pentatonic. So again, what we're now going to do is do the pentatonic scale, but for the relative minor, which is B minor. So let me just move this back down again. So for the B minor, it's very similar notes, but because you're starting on the B, so it's B, D, E, F sharp, A, and then B to N. So. So we'll do that at 80. And last but not least, 120. Oh, there's a mistake. So that was the B minor pentatonic, so exactly the same notes but just starting and ending in a different place. Now I then do the B blues scale, because the blues scales are based on the minor pentatonic scales, and there's just one extra added note. It's the fourth note, which is then flattened, and you add that before the fourth note, if that kind of makes sense. So whereas my B minor pentatonic is B, D, E, F sharp, A, B, the B blues scale is B, D, E, F, F sharp, A, B. So as I said, it's very, very similar to the one you've just been playing. You just one extra note you need to add to it. So let's give that a go. I love the sound of the blues scales. It's something I'm really looking forward to being able to do some really nice playing with them. But anyway. So there you go, you can clearly hear the blues note there, it gives it that blue feel. Right, so let's try it a little bit faster. This is at 100. Oh, wrong one. Wrong again. Struggling with this. Hold on guys, I need to focus. So just so that you know, when you're playing your scales, especially if you're trying to play them from memory, which is a good thing to do, I often find personally, so I'm guessing it's other people as well, if you lose your concentration, it's really easy, just especially when you're learning a new scale, to kind of just to get a note wrong. So you do have to keep focusing on it. Wrong way again. Right, I'm going to get one more go. If I don't do it this time, I'll move on anyway. So that was the blues scale. Actually, I don't think I did that. Nope, sorry, that was at 100. Let's see if I can do that again at 120. Okay, so here we are at 120. So that was the blues scale, and the last thing that I'm going to practice today is the arpeggio. So the arpeggio it's a very simple scale, so it's basically just notes 1, 3 and 5. Often chords will have 7th and 9th and things, but in terms of learning your arpeggio, it's just 3 notes from the scale. So I'm doing the D major arpeggio, and it's notes 1, 3 and 5 from the scale. So it's, in this case for D major, it's D, F sharp, A, and I'll play the D again at the top, you know, 1 octave higher, and then come back down again. So let's do that. Get it back down to 60. So now bump that up to 80. Then 120, no, 100. Oh. And then the last exercise on my scales in this sheet is doing the arpeggio, the D major arpeggio at 120, so we'll try that. So there we go, guys, that's what I do now, and I do find that it's less stressful. I used to find before that I just was running out of time, or I'd find a scale that I was really struggling with, and it just meant that I'd spend a lot of time on that scale and wouldn't practice my other scales, and I'd be getting frustrated that I wasn't practicing what I wanted to practice. Whereas with this, you know, you're kind of focusing really hard on the major scale at the beginning, and once you've got that major scale done, the other ones tend to come a lot more easy. So it may take you a while to get the major scale up to speed, but you know, if you're just focusing on one scale a day, I think that's a great way to do it. Anyway, guys, I hope you found that useful. I hope that's really helpful for anybody out there. And if you're happy to follow me on my journey to see what other struggles I've been going through, then you can just click on the link here to sign up to my channel, to follow the channel. And I've got a little list of videos of my favourite songs that I'm playing at the moment. So if you want to see my journey through that as well, just click on this link here.